There is a day every year when people play these silly, benevolent jokes on their friends. And chances are you have been on the receiving end of these jokes. Sometimes you laughed, other times you were slightly amused, and maybe you weren't so amused. But for the most part, these jokes were relatively harmless. The ones that did cause harm were fortunately fictional. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you're a SpongeBob fan. But there is one joke that generations of Americans have fallen for, and I hate to admit that I am one of those fools. Unlike most jokes that we have ever encountered, this one is not saved for just one particular day in April. And unlike most jokes we've fallen for, this one is far from amusing or harmless. We hear it every day. Often it's parroted by our parents, grandparents, teachers, media, CEOs of prominent hegemonic companies, and the doofuses who bathe deep in propaganda spewed by mainstream media operated outlets. Think of channels like Fox Business and CNBC. And most of the people who tell this joke have absolutely no idea that they are telling one. That's only the second worst part about it. The worst part about the joke is that once you realize that you have been fooled, it's too late because you're fucked. In fact, some people still don't even know that they have been played, even after they've recognized that they have been royally screwed into the same depressing, agonizing predicament as everybody else. I think you get the point by now. So the joke in question goes something like this. If you work hard and play by the rules, you'll live a successful life. And it's taken many different forms over the years. Perhaps you've been taught, pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, work hard and take responsibility for your actions, get good grades, get a college education, stay out of trouble. And if you do all of that, your 20s will become the best decade of your life. And you'll find a group of lifelong friends that you fit in with in college, along with a good paying job, a partner, multiple kids, a nice suburban home, endless material possessions, leisure time, and most of all, the ability to retire. And after chasing that rainbow up until college graduation, many members of my generation, including myself, are asking the following question. Where the fuck is the reward? I don't just speak up on behalf of myself, but many others around my age when I say these things. Like others, my good grades and my college degree are producing a return on investment of jack shit. And like others, I'm busting my ass off only to be underemployed and relying on financial support from parents. Play by the rules? What if the rules are inherently flawed? By the way, the people who are winning in life right now not only actively disregard rules that they don't like, but they also make the rules. As the great civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr. once hinted at, why in the world should we follow the laws when the laws do nothing but enable injustice? Take responsibility for your actions? I mean, okay, it's very agreeable advice to an extent, but it's not your fault that you weren't dealt a great hand in life, and it's certainly not your fault for society and its elected leaders having such a callous attitude towards those who struggle. To the people who continue telling us this cruel lie, here's some news for you. Even some of the best college-educated students find themselves applying for thousands of jobs, or if they have work, they work 2 or more jobs and or overtime hours to make ends meet. On top of that, they are spending whatever limited time their cruel employers have left them with in traffic jams and dealing with endless lists of personal obligations. Educated or not, many people who are running on fumes right now as a result of working as hard as humanly possible are just barely surviving. Hell, some of them are not surviving, and nothing changes for any of them. Nothing will unless one of them happens to win a lottery or we rewrite the rules in a way that gives everybody a fair chance at success. But your best chance of getting any of the rewards that I've mentioned above is by A, inheriting a very fortunate set of circumstances at birth, and B, knowing a guy who knows a guy. Clearly, I should have done my research and chosen to be born as a neurotypical person to well-connected, rich, white, privileged parents. I wish I had known that earlier, but it's my fault for not doing research, so I have to deal with this. Now, there are much better videos out there explaining how and why we got to this point, as well as what we could do about our current situation. So I'm not going to delve too deep into that. But what I will address is the people who have perpetuated this absolutely cruel farce. I ask you, why? Okay, I'll try to look at things from your perspective because clearly you can't look at things from ours. This advice is what worked for you back in the day, and you've assumed that the experience would be the same for your children. Good intentions, but we are no longer living in the 1960s and 1970s. During those times, some home buyers could purchase a house for not even 2 times their annual income. But do you remember Ronald Reagan? I mean, I was born well after his presidency, but I can certainly remember the harm that he has caused to generations of Americans. You know, Reagan, the trickle-down economics con man, the union destroyer, the deregulator, the father of stock buybacks. Yeah, the game has changed significantly since his reign of terror. And because of his backwards policies, since the 1980s, the cost of living has far outpaced our real wage gains, especially when it comes to necessities. Nowadays, homes are about 7 times the median annual income. And this does not even mention the exceedingly strenuous and Sisyphean job hunting act that we have to deal with now. Now we have to deal with armies of robots processing our applications, as well as a deliberately and needlessly long and complex interview process. And worse yet, you dismiss our plight as a product of what you perceive to be laziness and a lack of motivation, when that could not be further from the truth. It's not just that Gen Xers are working just as hard as the generations before them, but productivity since the 1980s, like the cost of living, has also far outpaced our real wage growth. You know, not too long ago, I had a conversation with my parents, and they began a sentence with, "when you have kids." And I'm just thinking, are you fucking kidding me? What? When? I'm broke. The money that I've worked my tail off for is being vacuumed up by the Brian Thompsons of the world. You know, what makes you think that I can even survive, let alone dream of introducing someone into a burning calamity of a situation that is life? If you're a boomer, you need to be better and quit looking at our issues through your insular lens. Even if your kids are already grown up by now, which they probably are, you're still inflicting damage by perpetuating these very harmful false notions. Perhaps you should stop pushing this lie on us. Perhaps you should stop making these lazy, inaccurate assumptions about us for once. Perhaps just once, you should dare listen to our perspective and acknowledge that the times have changed. And maybe, just maybe, you can break out of your fuck you, I got mine mentality, and make the world a better place for those who inhabit it before you inevitably die. But you won't. Throughout your lives, you've given zero fucks about making the world a better place for your children. But you've already made it, so why care anymore? Although I should mention this, for as good as your generation has had it, your generation is currently, in this decade, experiencing a rate of homelessness that it has never experienced before. I mean, I'm not cheering about this at all. I don't think that anybody deserves to go homeless. But it goes to show that even your generation isn't immune from the wrath of unjust policy. And if you've been on the other end of this cruel 365-day-a-year April Fool's joke, raise hell about it. Raise hell about it for the prevailing narrative that it has created and the harm that it has enabled. Tell the real story behind you and your generation, that it's the rules, the system that have wronged you and thus need to be changed. That's just the first step of many to help today's children and those born in the future to avoid this predicament of living a life of perpetual work without receiving anything meaningful in return.